This is the story of Lee Seo-jun, whose daughter, Lee Seol-ah, destroyed the world. And yes, the world is in complete chaos and Seo-jun is looking for a way to stop all this madness. In front of Seol-ah, he asks him what his reasons were for coming to these limits, a little late to want to take on the role of a father, as Seo-jun is a hunter. The main intention was to hunt Seol-ah down. Even the Sword Saint emphasizes that she was no longer his daughter, but Seo-jun insists that she is not a monster. That being said, the Sword Saint would not force him to fight and instead they would fight Seol-ah. But Seo-jun stands in his way to protect his daughter. This causes Seo-jun and the Sword Saint to go to battle. Seo-jun is aware that he completely failed in his duties as a father. He also knows that none of that will help Seol-ah or the Sword Saint. But even if he has to die, he is not going to stand by and watch his daughter be hunted, so the fight between these two begins. Quickly, the Sword Saint severely injures Seo-jun. Seeing this, Seol-ah begins to freak out. This begins the last task on Earth, the fight against the final boss, the witch Seol-ah. She unleashes all her power, while her dying father apologized for everything and wished to return to the beginning. Suddenly, a unique task of Seo-jun begins, to change the future, so he starts to return, while we see a bit of his memories and the problems he had with his girlfriend and his little daughter. The regression is complete and a young Seo-jun wakes up in his bed quite confused by everything. He was sure he died on that mountain. It is the year 2025. This makes him realize that it was a regression. He doesn't even know how he did it, nor what those task alerts were. Then, someone knocks on the door. He desperately runs to open it. He looks surprised and a bit scared because he knows about his ex-partner Yoonhye and his still young daughter Seol-ah, followed by another task alert: stop the 5 misfortunes of Seol-ah. We go to a flashback before the regression. At this very moment, Yoonhye tries to explain to Seo-jun that this little girl was his daughter and he not only refused to accept it, he also acted like an idiot, since it's been years since they've seen each other and Yoonhye comes and introduces Seol-ah to him. He believes that she brought the girl as a way of threatening him. She also asked him for proof that he was her father. She even told him that until he could prove that Seol-ah was his biological daughter, he should leave. This clearly affected Seol-ah a lot at the time. But now it's different. She has another chance not to act like a scumbag. He is already aware of the task of stopping Seol-ah's 5 misfortunes. It's hard to believe that this little girl was able to destroy the world. As for the misfortunes, this meant that there were many things that happened to Seol-ah, although he doesn't know exactly what those misfortunes are. Seo-jun never made good memories with her since he met her. He didn't recognize her as his daughter, and he also made Yoonhye, who had taken care of Seol-ah all this time, die. After that, he took care of the girl, but he felt a lot of guilt. On top of that, after Yoonhye died, he worked hard to pay debts, while Seol-ah was left alone at home. So to sum it all up, the reason why Seol-ah became a witch who destroyed the world was because of her own father. Back to the present, Seo-jun immediately accepts that Seol-ah is his daughter, which surprises Yoonhye, so she invites them in to rest for a while. Yoonhye thought about how much Seo-jun has changed. He used to be a messy guy and now he not only cleaned his house, but he plays with Seol-ah even though he's embarrassed because he just met her daughter. Seo-jun tells her that everyone changes over time, of course, with time and the destruction of the world in between. He asks Yoonhye why she hid Seol-ah's existence from him for so long. She replies that it was because they parted on bad terms. She found out she was pregnant right when Seo-jun entered the army. At first, she would take care of her on her own, but she went to see Seo-jun because things weren't working out. There was an accident and she has no other place to stay. She tells him that she won't ask him to take responsibility for Seol-ah since it was her decision to give birth, but she does ask him to let her stay there for a while. Since sleeping in a motel would not suit Seol-ah, Seo-jun agrees immediately. Even though her house is not very spacious, she will arrange for them to stay there, so she asks Yoonhye to go and get her things. From Yoonhye's perspective, Seo-jun is not a man who would allow such an easy thing. He was an immature bully. She initially came prepared to be rejected by him. Next, Seo-jun asks Yoonhye to marry him, which surprises her even more. Seo-jun knows it's sudden, but if he doesn't say it now, he might regret it. He needs to take responsibility for all the things he did. Now he has the heart and will to make things right. The emptiness he felt after Yoonhye died made him realize how important she was to him. Yoonhye's response is that she didn't go there because she still had feelings for him. It would be weird if after they parted on bad terms she still had feelings for Seo-jun. Yoonhye thanks him for letting them stay there, but as for the marriage, that was sudden and is something they will talk about later. This was the answer Seo-jun was hoping for. He will try to win her trust little by little. Seo-jun asks Yoonhye if she has any plans to take care of Seol-ah. Since taking care of a child is expensive, she was planning to join a guild. Immediately, Seo-jun acknowledges that this is one of Seol-ah's misfortunes. Yoonhye tells her that she will become a hunter as long as Seo-jun takes care of Seol-ah. Despite everything, Seo-jun is sure that things didn't develop that way before, so it's a breakthrough. Now we go back 20 25 years, 10 years before the present, simultaneously, the world collapsed. There was an unprecedented natural disaster. All kinds of monsters came out of the dimensional rifts that formed and led to the destruction of humanity through killing humans. Because people used the mana that escaped from the dimensional rifts and adapted it to possess special powers, people were able to kill the monsters that were impossible to hurt before. These people are called hunters. Yunai went to a guild where she received a contract. She hasn't signed it yet, but the benefits and bonuses for doing so are apparently very good, so she will probably end up signing it. Seo Jun doesn't like the idea, as there are too many loopholes in hunters' contracts and countless guilds take advantage of that. That way the guilds benefit themselves, so he thinks it's best not to sign that contract. Yunai knows that if she gives up the contract, there will be no way to make money to pay off her debts and make a living. It is at this point that Seo Jun understands her position and tells her to go negotiate the contract if that is what she wants, but if she notices anything suspicious, she better not sign it. Seo Jun is willing to show Yunai how to be a hunter. She thinks back to how much he changed when they were going to break up. He was too childish. While they were discussing this whole contract thing, Xiao was sleeping and Seo Jun was assuming his role as a father, and talking about this, the next day he takes Xiao to an ice cream shop. Seo Jun knows which guild contacted Yunai, plus he knows the methods the guilds use at that time. They lure hunters with signing bonuses and bind them to the guild, until they practically enslave them with a huge amount of debt. Before her regression, that strategy made her accumulate a lot of debts and she spent her whole life on the battlefield to pay them off. Yunai was in the same situation. She was pressured by the guild all her life and died before she had a chance to discover her talent. Yunai's death is most likely one of Xiao's misfortunes, but let's go back to the ice cream shop. Xiao wins over the ice cream maker and she gives her a very big ice cream. Xiao had barely called Seo Jun dad before. Because of the amount of time he spent outside, he couldn't have proper conversations with her, even leaving her alone at the times when she was having the hardest time. The first and last time she called him dad, let's just say it wasn't the most pleasant memory. But now things are different. He just found out that his daughter liked ice cream, so apart from the goal of preventing Xiao's misfortunes, he wants to make as many memories with her as possible. Everything was going well, they were enjoying the ice cream, until suddenly an unexpected crack appears. Originally, they calculate the position of the cracks before they appear, so they make the hunters be on site before they form. But that siren meant that an unexpected crack is forming. This has very low chances of happening, and it is something that did not happen before their return. As Seo Jun was running home with Xiao, the term butterfly effect came to his mind. Yunai, who never lets anyone take care of Xiao, suddenly left her in Seo Jun's care and an unexpected rift formed. This because somehow the future changed, something had been altered. They can't escape, because the rift forms right in front of them. From the crack comes out a huge cretin bull. Such a monster would not have been a problem for Seo Jun before the regression. But right now he is no different from a normal person, so he must escape, but not so fast, because the bull marks him as a target. Seo Jun asks Xiao to hide between those buildings. The bull goes after Seo Jun again, so he takes this broom as a weapon. He manages to narrowly dodge the monster's blow, this thanks to the mana he put around his body. His weapon is a broom, but he has no choice but to try. From the moment the siren sounded, there are 5 minutes or so until help arrives, so the idea is to hold out for that amount of time. 5 minutes may not sound long, but he is in danger of death there. But even if he has to squeeze every drop of mana out of him and even if his body goes to pieces, he will try. Before his regression, he lacked the pure strength needed to be a hunter. Because of that, he was falling behind the others and his anxiety was increasing every day. After desperately searching for a way to survive, he was able to memorize entire books about monsters. In short, the cretin bull's weak point is his eye, so he covers the broom with mana and throws it at the monster. He thinks it won't do anything to him as he didn't manage to gather enough mana, but he managed to not only hit it, but also damage its eye. But that's not the only thing. A mysterious ice magic also affects the bull. The bull gets out of control and the building is about to collapse, so he must rush to save Xiao. He manages to do so, covering her with his own body, taking all the damage, until suddenly, he collapses from his injuries. He tries to get up, as the danger continues and he has to get his daughter out of there. But salvation comes, hunters arrive on the scene and Seo Jun understands that he can leave the rest to them. Later, Yunai goes to the hospital where they are both found. Xiao is safe, but Seo Jun did have some injuries. Yunai starts crying and Seo Jun tries to calm her down, but all he gets is a slap. After that, Yunai thanks him for protecting Xiao, which doesn't make sense because he should have done it anyway, she's his daughter. Seo Jun tells Yunai that when the cretin bull appeared, something strange happened. Someone used ice magic against him, so he suspects that Xiao was responsible. Yunai gets nervous when she hears this and tries to say that she couldn't have been able to do such a thing, since Seol-ah can barely even say the magic word, so a spell would be even more complicated to cast. But Seo-jun insists on getting an answer, at which point Yunai decides to trust him and tell him the truth. The one responsible for that ice magic was Seol-ah. The reason Yunai went to Seo-jun's house was because Seol-ah caused the house to collapse, all as a result of her emotions getting out of control. She is usually fine, but if something gets out of control, she is afraid that she might be taken to a lab to be studied. Seo-jun tells him that he will defend Seol-ah no matter what. That's when Yunai asks him if he has considered the possibility that Seol-ah isn't Seo-jun's daughter. Seo-jun is sure that she is his daughter, and even if she wasn't, it's something he wouldn't argue in front of her. Seo-jun starts to have feelings for Yunai but tries to calm down because he remembers that in his other life he was over 40 years old and Yunai is currently 26. But anyway, remember the whole thing with the guilds and the contracts with loopholes? Well, it turned out just like that. There were loopholes in the contract Yunai was offered, so she read it bit by bit and then threatened to go to another guild. But well, it's not like she had offers from other guilds. But that is not an impediment, because Seo-jun will teach you his secret technique. After that you will see this workshop, one like any other, with the difference that this one is more affordable. While Seo-jun was in the hospital, he was trying to remember various things from his previous life. There was one person who stood out, a blacksmith who would one day be known as the best blacksmith in the world, Kang Cheol-lee. He is the owner of this workshop and who receives them. Seo-jun and Yunai introduce themselves as aspiring hunters and Seol-ah is mom and dad's daughter. They are there because they need weapons. Seo-jun wants a spear, while Yunai hasn't been able to decide yet, so she will look at the options first. In that workshop they use mithril and dungeon materials as a base. They are pretty good weapons for beginners. Seo-jun shows Yunai a bow, since she has high concentration and good reaction. He thinks a bow would be good for her. Cheol-lee tells her that she can practice with the weapon if she wants. Yunai ends up accepting Seo-jun's recommendation and takes the bow. Cheol-lee tells them that there are no refunds or returns, but if they want to switch weapons they are free to do so. The total price for the weapons is a bit expensive, but Seo-jun offers to pay for them. While they were discussing the payment, Seol-ah mentions that she is able to stop eating sweets if necessary so that they won't be short of money. In a flashback, Yunai remarks to Seo-jun that Seol-ah doesn't say what she thinks or feels. This some people would consider it kind, but from Yunai's point of view, Seol-ah acts too mature for her age. It would be normal for her to be capricious and throw tantrums. Yunai blames herself for this as she feels that she has not been able to give her the best life. Back to the present, Cheol-lee got carried away by Seol-ah's charm and lowered the price of weapons for them. Since they got weapons, they must continue with the plan. Seo-jun tells Yunai that they will go to a dungeon. Yunai then trains with the bow she just bought. She even manages to get through the tree. After that they arrive Seo-jun Seol-ah. They will take a break while they eat something. The place where they are is perfect for training since there aren't many people around. Not for nothing is this place Seo-jun's biggest secret. He used to use this place as his secret training place before his regression. For a few weeks, he taught Yunai basic battle skills, which allowed them to prepare before going out to the dungeons. Seo-jun is impressed with Yunai's skills, even asking her if it's really her first time using a bow. Before Seo-jun returned, Yunai had to use a sword due to the policy of the guild he was in. But Yunai never showed much talent with a sword and often broke them in the middle of his battles. It was then that he held his dead colleague's bow and showed his true talent. The mana control training is not going so well. She was trying to gather mana but has only managed to do so once. It is at that moment that Seol-ah understands what she is referring to and shows them both some mana. Seeing this, they should be even more careful with her from now on. They need someone to take care of her while they are inside the dungeon, as they can't take her to a place this dangerous. Seo-jun has an idea, though no matter how hard he tries to change things based on the memories before his regression, things don't always turn out so well. Seo-jun goes to see his father with the intention of leaving Seol-ah there while they go to the dungeon, but he is not very well received. Seo-jun explains to him that the girl is his daughter, but her father was actually asking about the girl's mother. When he tells him that it is Yunai, he tells him about the marriage, which Seo-jun proposed to her, but so far she has not accepted. Upon meeting Seol-ah, her father immediately falls for her charms. Seo-jun asks if he can take care of her for a few days. Her father immediately agrees. After this he meets Yunai. Seo-jun asked for a belt which has a stone that Seol-ah had found. This stone is a monolite. This stone he found when they went to the workshop. The monolite is a stone that lights up when it detects nearby mana. It is used to locate artifacts in dungeons, so they are sold at a high price. Even though it was Seol-ah who found it, she gives it to Seo-jun as a gift, as she was just curious about how bright it was. The reason for buying that strap is because it's a must before going to a dungeon. While they're there, Seo-jun tells Yunai to look for some clothes. but Seo-jun is there for other reasons. In that place is also this guy, Sung Soo-hyun, a rather famous hunter. He's a hunter who promotes his guild through TV broadcasts. He's famous for being a celebrity because of his appearance. Seo-jun doesn't like this guy. Soo-hyun is the guild master of the Knights Guild, the same ones who pushed Yoonhye into his trap. Moments later, the mall they are in starts to shake. Seo-jun knows exactly what is about to happen, and that is the reason why he is here. A dungeon has been created at that point. Monsters start to come out of it. A special task is activated. Clean the dungeon in the collapsed mall. People start to run. The doors of the mall cannot be opened. The desperation and chaos is increasing. Seo-jun immediately throws himself against the monsters and saves this person. He tells him to go to the exit, because the hunters will be there. They will regroup with the hunters to fight the monsters. Soo-hyun, instead of helping this woman, just pushes her into a monster. Luckily, this girl arrives to help her. Seo-jun knows her. She is Go Hee-yeon, a hunter who survived until the day of the ruin before it receded. From what Seo-jun remembers, she shouldn't be there, but this is no time to get distracted. Seo-jun and the other hunters ask for calm and focus on the battle to protect the civilians, so they fight the monsters and defeat them one by one, until they defeat the last one. Then we go to a flashback where Soo-hyun reads Yoonhye's request to join their guild. They told him that she left the contract and left. Since he knows who she is, Soo-hyun tries to treat her well to get her into his guild. But Seo-jun comes between them. A boy was injured and has spider venom in his body. He can endure with first aid, but he will be in danger if he doesn't get treatment soon. The exit will open only if they complete the dungeon, so they plan to kill the boss, but Soo-hyun is against it, since the dungeon exit will open on its own in 24 hours. He thinks it's crazy to fight the boss with so few people, but Seo-jun insists that the injured boy won't last that long if they don't get out of there soon. Soo-hyun doesn't plan on listening to anything Seo-jun says, so he stays put. Even before his regression, Soo-hyun was able to complete dungeons only after the exit was formed. Hee-yeon offers to accompany Seo-jun and Yoonhye in their boss fight. Before her regression, after the dungeon opened, Hee-yeon completed that dungeon with Soo-hyun as far as he knows. Soo-hyun tries to stop Hee-yeon, but she tells him to stop screwing around and that he should stop being a hunter. The three of them set off for the boss, starting to clear the dungeon. On the way, they come across these lights. They are luminescent moss, plants that grow in the dark parts of the dungeon. Hee-yeon realizes that Yoonhye is a rookie, even though she thought she was a veteran hunter because of how she fought before. Hee-yeon thinks that both of them show extraordinary abilities for common applicants, especially Seo-jun. Because of Seo-jun's abilities, Hee-yeon wants him to be the mission commander. At that time, Seo-jun realizes that girl is testing him to evaluate his abilities. He was planning to show his abilities to some extent, but it would be a problem if she pokes too much. Finally, Seo-jun agrees to be the commander, but pretends to be overwhelmed by having such a role. Finally, they reach the place where the boss is. It was a slime, which confuses them, as slimes are used as practice monsters for rookies, but Seo-jun asks them not to underestimate it, as it is still a boss. Since the slimes react to the vibrations of the surface, they have to be careful when going down to the ground. Hee-yeon goes out first and goes down smoothly, while Yoonhye falls down and makes the slime alert. You would think that being big it is slow, but it moves quickly to Yoonhye. Fortunately, Seo-jun manages to save her. This slime is somewhat different, as it has a skeleton inside. The slime begins to move, destroying everything in its path in search of Seo-jun and company. As expected, it is more sensitive to vibrations than visual cues, so up to this point, everything was going according to plan. Let's go to a little flashback. Seo-jun was telling them that the slime is weak to fire, so using it even for a moment would help them break the membrane to reveal the core. Hee-yeon and Seo-jun will take care of the slime's membrane, while Yoonhye would keep it under control from behind. In case of an emergency, she will have to cover it in fire for them. Back to the present, the slime is not giving them any chance to counterattack. It won't take long for the stone they are hiding in to break while they wait for an opportunity. So Hee-yeon, aware of their abilities, will go out and distract it. In a battle of endurance, she is confident she will win. The slime tries to break to get closer to where they are, which means it has an extensive attack range but can't move from where it is. So Hee-yeon will try to reveal what's inside, using Absolute Division, an ability Hee-yeon used before Seo-jun's regression. She continuously attacks the slime. The Hee-yeon from before the regression would have been able to cut through anything. But right now she is not at 100% of her capabilities. Not only is she unable to completely cut through the slime, but even her sword is breaking down. The slime has a fast recovery speed. Hee-yeon doesn't think she can last that long fighting due to the state of her sword. The slime is about to attack her, but Seo-jun throws a bottle of oil at it to completely cover it. This to get rid of the outer membrane and leave the core exposed. They both run from the slime. At one point, the slime almost kills Hee-yeon, but Yoonhye saves her with her bow and also manages to completely set the slime on fire using a mana arrow. Yunhai didn't think she could do this since she hadn't completed her mana training. But Seo Jun asked her to believe in herself. With the slime set on fire, its core was exposed. They must destroy it before its armor recovers. Yunhai shoots some arrows at it, while Hee-yeon and Seo Jun prepared a joint attack, until they got close enough to give the slime the final thrust. Outside of the shopping mall, there were people gathered together after hearing the notifications that their family members and acquaintances were trapped there, planning to wait 24 hours for the dungeon to open. There were also Seol-ah and her grandfather, as he knew that Seo Jun and Yunhai would be in the mall. But suddenly, the entrance of the dungeon opens. Out come some injured civilians, the useless Soo Hyun, and lastly, Seo Jun, Yunhai, and Hee-yeon. Both receive little Seol-ah. Later, the child who was poisoned is shown on television safe and sound. The hunters have a promising future, but they earn a lot of money because they always put their lives at risk. When he learns that they are both hunters, Seo Jun's father doesn't seem to agree. Well, they're not official hunters yet, but seeing how they cleared the dungeon, they'll become professionals soon. His father asks him what he will do with Seol-ah soon after he decides that he can take care of her for a while. Then he wants to talk to Yunhai in private. He doesn't want to pressure them to get married. He asks her if she doesn't like Seo Jun. After a moment's thought, she says yes. Seo Jun's father had heard a little of Yunhai's situation. Her parents died and she was unable to contact Seo Jun. She and Seo Jun parted on bad terms, so she chose to give birth and raise Seol-ah on her own. Seo Jun's father is willing to help her if she has any problems. After all this, they go to prepare to get a hunter's license. While sleeping, Seo Jun has a nightmare in which he finds himself in the world before his regression. Everything is destroyed and Seol-ah is attacking him. He manages to wake up thanks to little Seol-ah. Seo Jun was not able to remember what he had dreamt. They both start to run out of money. Once they get a hunter's license, they will have some income, but it will be very short considering they have to spend more after the exam. Seo Jun and Seol-ah were having fun. Yunhai gets them out of bed and at that moment they receive a money transfer, 1 million won. They both received it. The person responsible for this was Hee-yeon. It was their reward for participating in the dungeon cleaning. Since Seo Jun and Yunhai don't have hunter's licenses yet, Hee-yeon's guild took it upon themselves to pay them. The amount of money they received is small compared to what licensed hunters earn. The purpose of this exam is to measure the skill level of aspiring hunters and to allow them to become full-fledged hunters. If someone passes the exam and gets the license, they not only gain the right to do hunting things like selling materials, but they are also recognized as an official hunter. Since they would both be going to this exam, Hee-yeon asks them to let her know when they get their schedule. She will be in charge of supporting them and also offers to take care of Seol-ah in the meantime. The current Hee-yeon is very different from the one Seo Jun remembers. Maybe she's doing all this because she wants to recruit them to her guild. It's pretty tentative since it's one of the biggest guilds in Korea. With the transfer they received, they don't have to worry so much about expenses anymore. Plus, they still have some time before the exam, so they're going to buy clothes for Seol-ah. The day of the exam arrives and Hee-yeon is left in charge of Seol-ah, who is wearing her new clothes. The first phase of this test is a written test. Yunhai is a little worried about Seo Jun because he was in training for a long time, so he didn't prepare properly. But that's okay, because Seo Jun has failed the test many times before his regression. He always got a perfect score on the written test, but due to his lack of strength, he always failed the second stage of the test. And when he finally got his license, he came out a mess. Seo Jun decides to make a bet with Yunhai. The loser grants the winner his wish. Yunhai is fascinated by the idea. The preparations to avoid Seol-ah's misfortunes have already started. If she has to go through 5 misfortunes in the future, they will clear the way so that it won't happen and she can smile and have a good life. We head to the Goryeo House of Swordsmen. The Guildmaster, who is the Sword Saint, is informed that the licensing exam he had been told about will begin shortly, so he heads off to witness the exam. The first phase of the examination is over. Both Seo Jun and Yunhai pass the written test without much difficulty, and we move on to the second part. In the exam field there is an artificial monster that imitates a normal one. Its name is Dummy. They will pass the test if they are able to hunt that monster within the set time without having serious injuries, while many guild agents will observe everything. So it's a chance to be recruited by a guild according to their combat skills. The test starts. They fail one after another. The guild agents look disappointed as there were no conspicuous applicants. There was also the Sword Saint. It's the first time they see him in the observation room. The first day there was a rift. The Sword Saint was the hunter who saved mankind from absolute destruction. He is the guild leader who formed the world-renowned sword house Goryeo. He is both famous and skilled. All other agents give up on watching applicants, as they know that the talented ones will be recruited by the Sword Saint. The granddaughter of the Sword Saint is, yes, Hee-yeon. She was the one who invited him. She also introduces him to Seol-ah, since he was in charge of her at the time. Yes, he is Santa Claus, not the Sword Saint. Yunai passes the test in a time of 16 seconds. Now it would be Seo Jun's turn. Their fight begins. Seo Jun stands there waiting for the right moment. The agents think he froze in fear, but the Sword Saint knew exactly what he was trying to do. Seo Jun dodges the dummy's blow. From the countless times he took the test, he learned a weakness in the dummy before his regression. The golem that mimics the dummy has a large gap in its armor right there. The agents were still confused with Seo Jun's acting, as it is common knowledge that the dummy's weakness is the joints. Seo Jun jumps on top of the dummy with his gaze set on the gap. Moments later he manages to take out the dummy's core and finally defeated it. All in a time of 14 seconds, this guy is surprised by Seo Jun's skills, but we'll get to know him later. The Sword Saint immediately recognizes that it's Seo Jun, the person He-Yon wanted him to see. To celebrate their passing, He-Yon invites the three of them to a banquet at an expensive place. Seo Jun thought He-Yon would talk about recruiting them to her guild, but maybe he's getting too suspicious of her. But for every good deed, no matter how grateful he feels, Seo Jun feels there's an ulterior motive. Not only because he's seen all the facets of He-Yon before her regression, it's also because she's the granddaughter of the Sword Saint. However, now she doesn't seem to have evil intentions. Suddenly, He-Yon asks Seo Jun for something. She wants to know where they got the weapons that he and Yunai were using. If Seo Jun introduces them, He-Yon will let her grandfather meet Qiao-Li, the first generation, the first Sword Saint hunter and the one who will soon become a world-renowned blacksmith. That's something that should happen. Yes, but it should happen much later in the future. Later on, Seo Jun gives He-Yon what she asked for. He made her meet Qiao-Li. Seo Jun was a bit worried about the butterfly effect, but He-Yon is a good person. When he first heard her request, he was full of worry and doubt. But so far, He-Yon shows nothing but pure goodwill. She was different from the He-Yon he met before her regression. She had faced all kinds of difficulties, so he finally decided that she was someone he could trust. There's still one more test before the exam. They already know the location, so Seo Jun is doing a little research beforehand, looking for information so that they both pass the test without any problems. Here Yunai gets a little drunk, and it was the first time Seo Jun had seen her like this. The final exam is at Gwanak Mountain. The test is to clear a beginner dungeon with 2 randomly selected participants. The score of the final exam will depend on how well you cooperate and contribute with your comrades, since contribution decides whether you get a reward or not. Getting a reward is usually the criteria for passing the exam. Seo Jun's team is this guy, Hyoman Su, and this other one we saw before, Kang Di-ho. The time limit to clear the dungeon is 3 hours, and they must only use one type of weapon. Also, they can only use the consumables provided there. They will be given 30 minutes of discussion before the exam starts. Seo Jun recognizes that Mansu is a mage. He is a hunter who, instead of using swords or bows, uses his fists. He would in the future be known as the Fist King. They then have to discuss about each other's positions, and at that time Seo Jun felt that he would have to be the leader of the group. After a while, they entered the dungeon, and a new task was set: to clean the ant nest on Gwanak Mountain. After the meeting, the positions were decided. In the back will be Mansu, who has a large attack range. Seo Jun gives the orders and they will go in the middle, and Di-ho will be in the vanguard. People usually get scared when they enter a dungeon for the first time, just like Mansu, who makes a whole scene about having to protect him and not knowing if they will be able to do it. They even plan to leave him and complete the mission without him. In the end, Mansu ends up going, but he has to leave all his accessories with the supervisor, as his location may be exposed by so much noise. Mansu had enough of Seo Jun, and Seo Jun threatens him with a kick. Di-ho is impressed. Such speed and natural movements. He even accurately calculated the distance so as not to hit Mansu. Di-ho heard that there was a participant who passed the written exam with a perfect score and the practical exam in the shortest time, so he starts to believe that it is Seo Jun. Despite having been in the dungeon for some time, they have not encountered a single ant. Even the shiny moss that the ants eat has been left behind. There are times when the supervisors secretly create unexpected situations to determine how the participants would deal with them. Later, they come across something strange, a huge hole. Seo Jun had never seen such a thing in an ant nest. Suddenly, Mansu is dragged into the hole by something. It was a huge devouring ant. They try to pull him out, but the ant takes him away, so they immediately enter the hole. The supervisor tries to stop them as they were going to an area that is not part of the test. Suddenly, a new special test is activated, a hidden dungeon. Clean the cave of the devouring ant. Both Di-ho and Seo Jun heard the warning. Now they are inside a hidden dungeon. Seo Jun heard that an unexpected situation would happen during the exam, but he doesn't think this was meant to be, since the supervisor's reaction was not normal. The ant dungeon cave didn't have a hidden dungeon before his regression, so he thinks it's a butterfly effect again. They manage to hear Mansu's voice. He will be fine, as ants have a habit of keeping their food alive. Di-ho says they should wait for the supervisor, but the entrance to the dungeon was blocked after they entered. Seo Jun is sure that Di-ho is worried, But there is a reason why Seo Jun is trying to solve that situation even though it is a risky gamble. His goal is to win the reward for being the first to clear a hidden dungeon. After the dungeon is cleared, hunters are rewarded in various ways. Among them, it is possible to obtain an elixir if you are the first to clear it. This elixir has the effect of boosting a hunter's abilities, so it is a miracle medicine that any hunter would want. So even though it is dangerous, Seo Jun wants to give it a try, as saving and protecting those in danger is what hunters do. That said, the dungeon subjugation begins. They are attacked by ant corpses. They can move because they became undead after the devouring ant ate them. They are like ghost ants. But things are going relatively well. D-Ho wipes out many ants. He notices that his strength and confidence increase thanks to Seo Jun. D-Ho thought that whenever a surprise attack happens, a spear in command from Seo Jun appears to get them out of trouble. It's like he has experienced many fights before. After defeating those ants, they go deeper into the dungeon, slowly approaching the boss room, where Mansu is probably, and even though he's an idiot, they hope he's alright. Then they find him, but it was a devouring ant trap, which captures D-Ho, although he managed to cover himself in mana so he wouldn't get hurt. Seo Jun hits the ant. It's pretty tough, very different from the dummy golem before. Seo Jun thinks of the devouring ant's weakness, so he attacks the antennae. The ant releases D-Ho. Although he did some damage, they need to get him off the ground before he goes back into hiding. For that he needs D-Ho's help. Seo Jun believes in him. At that moment, D-Ho has flashbacks about how he was treated because of the way he fought with his fists. He was told that it was risky and useless, so he was often excluded, unlike Seo Jun, who encouraged him because he was sure that he was useful and his fighting style seemed great. At that moment, D-Ho trusts Seo Jun and uses his strength to catch the ant and lift it all the way out. The ant's lower body, which was hidden underground, has no exoskeleton to cover it. This was the opportunity Seo Jun was waiting for to attack. Seo Jun must finish off the ant in a cool way because he is in the presence of who would be the future Fist King. So showing off in style, he delivers the final blow to the devouring ant, being the first to clear the hidden dungeon and completing the special task. Later, Seo Jun and Yunai finally received their hunter's licenses. After so many turns, they passed the exam and became official hunters. Even though it's a step in changing the future, Seo Jun must not forget that it's just the beginning. Suddenly, the mana light starts to shine. Even though there is no siren sound indicating a breakthrough, Yunai's bag starts to rise, just like this paddle. It's like when the house collapsed, or when the cretin bull was defeated. The one responsible for this is Xiaola, which was getting strong to a point where it got out of control. Fortunately, it doesn't escalate and later they talk about what happened. Seo Jun asks Yunai what exactly happened the day the house collapsed. What happened was that Xiaola asked where her father was, then burst into tears when Yunai told her that she couldn't meet him, and the house collapsed. That's why they came to find Seo Jun. This time, she stopped by herself with the floating object. But based on what she has seen of her ability so far, she has the same abilities of a magician. She is even more than an ordinary magician. She is able to use much more powerful magic. The problem is that she is not using that power consciously. Her abilities are activated depending on her emotions. This means that Xiaola's mana is getting stronger, to the point where it's out of her control. Yunai worries that if things stay the same, someone could get hurt and Xiaola would be in danger, but it's not like there's no way to help her. Seo Jun knew that day would come since Xiaola's power exploded before her regression, but he didn't expect it to be so soon. One of the reasons Xiaola's mana became sentient is because the mana around her is scarce, so they have to take her to a place where there is plenty of mana. There are two places full of mana, the dungeon or the field. Yunai worries since it's something very dangerous. Seo Jun doesn't want to take her to those dangerous places either, because even though she has the talent to become the ultimate boss in the future, she's only a 5-year-old girl now, so to prevent that future, Seo Jun needs Xiaola to face the danger. Yunai understands Seo Jun's decision, as it's something she's probably thought of before. However, she's not sure about Xiaola having to fight monsters, so they'll take down the monsters and just take Xiaola there. The dungeons and fields are owned by the association or guilds, so they don't know if they'll let her in, since she's a girl, but luckily they know someone who can help them, so they head to the Goryo Sword House, where Hee-Yeon welcomes them. Seo Jun will ask for her help, but before that they have to climb many steps. Once inside, they are exhausted after climbing so many steps. Yunai didn't know that Hee-Yeon was the granddaughter of the Sword Saint. Hee-Yeon attends to them and asks what the favor they need is about. They tell her that they need to borrow the Goryo Sword Mountain field. Rifts fall into three main categories. Unique rifts, which spawn monsters and then disappear. Hurtful rifts, they take over buildings and create dungeons. And finally, permanent rifts, the opposite of the previous two, spawn monsters at regular intervals. The fields are the areas where many of the permanent rifts have appeared, so Seo-jun asks Hee-yeon that he and Yoonhye can use the field. Hee-yeon accepts and will look for a time when the trainees won't use it. Seo-jun didn't expect her to accept so quickly. This was because they introduced her to Cheol-lee, so it's a way to return the favor. Hee-yeon will go and ask if it is possible for them to enter the camp. Hee-yeon still didn't come back. This trainee was looking for her because there's a guest, that idiot Soo-hyun, who recognizes both of them. Well, Yoonhye, he doesn't remember Seo-jun's name. After Hee-yeon gave this guy a hard time, Seo-jun doesn't understand why he came there. However, from the way they were talking, it seemed to be the first time in this place. Suddenly, Soo-hyun points his finger at Seo-jun, calls him a wannabe hunter, and tells him that they need to talk. Soo-hyun is still Soo-hyun, and since Seo-jun doesn't own the place, he can't tell him to leave. Soo-hyun is there because he came to claim his share of the bounty for clearing the collapsed dungeon in the mall. Because according to his logic, the hunter who discovers the dungeon first has the right to raid it first. Soo-hyun was going to raid the dungeon after the exit opened. But Seo-jun, Yoonhye, and Hee-yeon robbed him of the opportunity without consulting him first. According to him, there might be trouble if the rumors that those who cleared the dungeon were two unlicensed hunters spread. Seo-jun doesn't understand anything. Logically, everyone has the right to attack the dungeon when he first appears, but Soo-hyun insists on getting his reward. He tries to use his position as the leader of the Knights Guild and as a celebrity with a good reputation. Seo-jun tells him that he was just scared that time. They were in a dangerous situation and all Soo-hyun did was run away like a coward. Seo-jun ends up telling him the same thing Hee-yeon told Soo-hyun before. He's not qualified to be a hunter. Meanwhile, Hee-yeon returns to where Seo-jun and Yoonhye are supposed to be. But there is only her. Hee-yeon is informed that Soo-hyun came and wanted to talk to Seo-jun. Yoonhye is worried that Seo-jun hasn't rested at all since they started training. He even investigated the camp all night last night. She's worried that he's pushing himself too hard. Back with these two, Soo-hyun attacks Seo-jun, who manages to receive his attack smoothly, even forcing him to retreat. Soo-hyun was surprised by Seo-jun's skills, while this other one was also surprised by Soo-hyun. Soo-hyun is seriously fighting someone who hasn't even refined his skills. Seo-jun pushes him back again. Soo-hyun came to see him and Hee-yeon for the dungeon reward, and would surely go after Yoonhye as well. He's a guy who's a threat to Yoonhye. At worst, he would try to take her to his guild. If that happens, things would happen just like in his past life, so Seo-jun needs to teach him a lesson so that he won't go after Yoonhye again. When he was preparing to deliver the final blow, he collapses because he pushed himself too hard. Soo-hyun assumes he ran out of stamina from using too much mana. He thinks he got lucky, but at the same time he's upset about it, since he's admitting that he was pressured by a rookie like Seo-jun. He even thinks about getting rid of him now and saying it was an accident while they were training. If he puts up money to cover it, he could get away with it. Just as he's about to finish Seo-jun off, the Sword Saint shows up to intervene. He knew exactly what Soo-hyun's intentions were, so he immediately orders him to get out of there. Hee-yeon and Yoonhye arrive as well. Seo-jun can barely stand up. The Sword Saint tells him that although cornering his opponent is a good strategy, he ended up dooming himself. He also tells him that although training hard is good, resting is even better. It also allows them to enter the field later. The Sword Saint imposes a compulsory rest on him. Seo-jun wakes up in perfect condition after sleeping for 2 days, but now the important thing is for both him and Yoonhye to concentrate on the battle ahead. They are on the field, and unlike the dungeon, no alarm sounds. Seo-jun wrote some notes, Yoonhye read them and understood most of them, so they should be able to clear that field without much trouble. As for Seol-ah, Hee-yeon picked her up at the entrance, so they can both relax and focus on the fight. They want to finish that quickly, since Yoonhye is a bit jealous that Hee-yeon is having fun with Seol-ah. Meanwhile, Seol-ah was playing with these teddy bears that she identified with her mum, her dad, and this rabbit she identified with Hee-yeon. And she was speechless as she watched all the dolls move on their own. Seo-jun and Yoonhye are in the field. Judging by the state of the monolith, it looks like there are no monsters surviving or hiding. All that's left is to hide the bodies and go find Seol-ah. When they go to see her, Hee-yeon directly asks them if Seol-ah is a mage. After a long discussion with Yoonhye, they both agreed to tell Hee-yeon that Seol-ah is capable of using magic. Not only could they not deny it, even if they did. Hee-yeon is not someone who spreads the truth with bad intentions. Plus, she also knows that this is something they better hide, since Seol-ah could be taken elsewhere, and the magic tower is obsessed with mana research. The Magic Tower is an organization of magicians that are world-rare existences. That's because they have so much potential that they can create endless possibilities even before their regression. For those reasons, they used their influence and took Xiao. The reason why Xiao Jun is trying to stabilize Xiao's mana is to avoid their persecution. Hyeon understands that the reason they came to the camp is also because of Xiao and decides to accompany them back, since they don't know if there are people hiding in the camp. She has no problem doing so, since if it's because of Xiao, it's nothing to her. Plus, she also wants to take that opportunity to show Xiao Jun her new sword technique. They go back to the field and Xiao starts to see mana everywhere. Only she can see it. She feels much better there and the mana light is decreasing, so it's definitely helpful. They would stay for a while before leaving, but suddenly they hear the sound of an alarm. They immediately run towards the exit. It was the sound of a crack appearing. The exit is blocked and then a boss appears. An unexpected mission begins to defeat the field boss of the Rocky region. Xiao Jun asks Yunai to try to get as far away from the boss as possible. Since she is faster, she can keep Xiao safe. Xiao Jun brought everyone after confirming that it wasn't the field boss's appearance period. It's weird, because also field bosses don't appear alone like this. Maybe it could have been attracted by mana. The golem attacks. This monster surrounds its core with stones to prevent them from destroying it if they attack it without strength. Not only will they not be able to hurt it, but it would also focus its attention on them. In other words, to take it down they must quickly find the core. Hyeon and Xiao Jun make a joint attack, the place where the core is usually on the top of his head or on his neck, so both Xiao Jun and Hyeon must hold their positions and cut his core together at the same time. When Xiao Jun hits it, the golem starts to move. Since it appeared attracted by the mana, it wants to go after Yunai and Xiao. To avoid that, Xiao Jun draws their attention so that the golem focuses on him. Hyeon needs to concentrate. She can't run and slash like last time, otherwise they would fail again. She must attack carefully and accurately, and so she does. She manages to destroy the golem's head. But it wasn't enough. Xiao Jun saves her. The golem is not dead. Its core was not on the top of its head or neck. It is hidden somewhere else, so until they find it and get rid of it, the golem will be able to regenerate all the time. The golem grabs them both in its hand and is about to crush them. They are unable to dodge, but suddenly a giant ice bear appears. Seconds ago, Yunai had moved far enough away from the danger, but they saw Xiao Jun and Hyeon in danger in the distance. That's when Xiao asked her mother if that was an evil monster. As the answer was yes, Xiao decided to help too. At that moment, Yunai was able to see her breathing. Xiao used her ice magic to create the giant bear, and then fell asleep. Xiao Jun still doesn't know where the ice bear appeared from, but it managed to hold back the golem's movements, so the two of them will try to get out of there. The more he sees it, the more Xiao Jun is sure that it is creation magic, and the only person capable of using that magic is Xiao, so there he realizes that she is responsible. The golem hits the teddy bear. This one looked like it was just huge and had no powers, let alone knew how to fight. If it continued at that pace, it would end up losing. It is at that moment where the teddy bear makes a weapon and blocks the golem, then starts its counterattack, this with just a single weapon. Hyeon tells Xiao Jun that the ice bear looks just like him. Moments later, the teddy bear strikes a blow at the golem that ejects its core and shatters it into pieces. The golem had been successfully defeated and the unexpected mission had been completed. Later, Hyeon tells both of them that she will make sure nothing comes up about Xiao and the incident they had in the rock region. She would be able to do it. Not for nothing is she the granddaughter of the Sword Saint. Xiao Jun is a bit hurt, but only a few small bruises. Meanwhile, Xiao is asleep. She was completely exhausted after making the ice bear. Xiao Jun is impressed that it wasn't summoning magic, since summoning is summoning a familiar with the mage's mana as the price. But what Xiao did was to create an artificial entity completely from scratch with magic. Summoning and creating are on different levels. Xiao may already be the strongest in the world. After hanging up the call, Hyeon meets some men outside the Goryeo sword house. Out of the car comes this guy who wants to ask her some questions. Back at home, Xiao Jun talks to Xiao about the ice bear he made. He didn't create it unintentionally, but Xiao Jun doesn't know how that magic manifested. It's a bit hard to tell that it's because of the mana, since this one was supposed to be stabilized. Xiao replies that she wanted to teach the evil monster a lesson. Suddenly, there's a knock on his door. Hyeon also calls him, this to let him know that a mage from the Mage Tower has come to visit them. Apparently, when they were hunting the mountain golem, the huge amount of mana triggered the fracture detection radar, and they're investigating everyone who was there. Xiao Jun panics and remembers what happened before his regression regression. Suddenly, a panel indicated to him that Xiaola's first misfortune had begun. A unique task is activated. Seo Jun must protect Xiaola from William Taylor. Yes, the name of the person at the door is William Taylor. Seo Jun will manage. He'll talk to Hee-yeon after that situation is over. Seo Jun explains to Xiaola that there are people from the magic tower looking for them because of what happened in the field. The more things Seo Jun says, the more suspicious he looks. The only thing he can do is rely on his courage and do the best he can, so he asks Xiaola to do something for him. They let William in. He explains the situation. It is an investigation personally requested by the Hunters Association. William Taylor was the manager of the English branch of the Magic Tower before Seo Jun's regression. Although he doesn't know what his current title is, it is certain that he is an extremely talented person. William's men searched the house for traces of mana but found nothing. They hadn't noticed Xiaola's mana. What Seo Jun asked him before was to hide the mana deep inside. The reason why Xiaola's magic got out of control may be because he can't control his mana, because no one has taught him how to do it, so now he is trying to do it on his own. William interrogates them and shows them evidence of what happened. They had found some remains of the ice bear in the field. Seo Jun says that there is nothing he can answer to just a picture. William looks at the three of them, sees that Seo Jun and Yunai have strong mana, but not to the point of being able to use magic, so he assumes they have the wrong hunter, thanks them for cooperating with the investigation and leaves. After that, they call Hee-yeon to tell her everything. Everyone was very scared but fortunately nothing happened. However, the mission window is still marked as incomplete. That means Xiaola's misfortune has not yet been completely averted. They manage to avoid the direct threat, but William can still sense Xiaola's mana. Seo Jun doesn't think he will be able to stop it. That's why Seo Jun needs to become stronger and use everything at his disposal to protect his daughter. Seo Jun has been careful with the knowledge he uses of the future, but now is not the time to be careful, but for that, he has to find someone first. 1 week later, we meet this girl, who is on her way to a dungeon. She plans to clean it alone, but she goes mostly because she wants to promote her products, as she belongs to the high-tech company. Her name is Hiram and her equipment attracts a lot of attention. She prepares to enter the dungeon alone. She is in the underground station. When she enters, she doesn't see a single monster. It seems that someone had already cleaned it. Even though she has all her defensive equipment ready, she feels a bit nervous. Suddenly, an armed guy appears before her. Hiram tries to talk to him, as she thinks he is a hunter, but this guy immediately stabs her. Hiram is wounded and cornered by 2 guys. She plans to kill the one responsible for the ambush when she gets out of there, but she is not sure if she will make it out alive. Suddenly, Seo Jun appears to beat up the 2 guys and save Hiram. Hi-Tech is Korea's most famous weapons manufacturing company, a conglomerate that sells all kinds of items used by hunters, such as guns, defensive equipment, and consumables. Hiram, the woman Seo Jun rescued, is the daughter of the president of this company. Hiram uses her influence to investigate Seo Jun. Since he saved her life, Hiram wants to give her a monetary reward. But Seo Jun refuses. It is quite a tempting offer. It is a mouth-watering amount and she would be able to invest it in various places. But Seo Jun did not save her because he wanted money, so if she accepts the payment, her relationship with Hiram would end there. Since he doesn't want that reward, Hiram offers Seo Jun a personal gift. Well, 2 gifts. His gift was a commission. Seo Jun could decide whether to accept or not after hearing the description. The Tiger Lair dungeon is an uncleared dungeon. A new monster was discovered there, so they planned to select people to go, but a problem arose. The team they sent was annihilated. 5 people including the collectors. They assume they are all dead. There is even a recording. Hiram was planning to go on his own, but with that injury he can't go anymore. So the commission for Seo Jun is to retrieve the materials from the monsters. He plans to go alone, although Hiram tells him it's crazy, but since that commission is to test Seo Jun, he ends up agreeing to it. Upon returning home, Seo Jun is greeted by Xiaola and Yunhai. He is happy for the warmth he feels at home. Everything was going well until Xiaola smells a different scent. Yunhai smells it too. It's a woman's perfume, so they both think he was having an affair because Seo Jun doesn't wear perfume. But what happened was that when he was carrying Hiram, the scent rubbed off on him. A few days later, Seo Jun goes to the dungeon of the Tiger's Lair. There is not a single person there. This attendant gives Seo Jun some consumables. He accepts them, except for the lantern. He says he doesn't need it. He then enters the dungeon of the Tiger's Lair. Seo Jun has entered an uncleared dungeon, and the special assignment begins. What characterizes that dungeon the most is total darkness. Even the brightest light wouldn't help, but there is a reason why he is confident he can clear it. He would use this, a night snowflake. It is an elixir that grants night vision. He got it in the hidden dungeon of the devouring ant. By using it, he is able to see even in the deep darkness of the place. He wants to hurry as he is expected to be hunted, so he takes down many of these monsters, which looked nothing like what he saw in the pictures he was shown. There are many of them, but suddenly they stop. That's when Seo Jun hears cries for help. Although Hiram said they were assumed to be dead, their deaths are not confirmed, so he runs towards the cries for help. But he was running straight into the mouth of this monster. It is this monster who emitted the cries for help. It is also a monster that lures people and eats them there. It is a monster that mimics the voice and appearance of humans that it has eaten to lure more humans into its trap. A mimic. Of all the monsters, very little is known about this one specifically. It quickly attacks Seo Jun, then realizes that his body is quite weak, as even though he blocked it with his spear, it is bleeding heavily. It only needs one chance to make a fatal wound. The mimic dodges the attacks and imitates the voices of the people it had killed. It even tries to imitate the voices of a girl calling for her father. It is looking for a voice that Seo Jun reacts to. It finally finds it, and takes on an appearance quite similar to Xiaola. Seo Jun knows not to fall into its trap, but the emotions flowing inside him win out. The mimic bites him, but it doesn't hurt him. Seo Jun didn't go to that dungeon unprepared. It's just that Hiram gave him a whenever suit. It's an item that will never go into mass production process. It's able to increase mana circulation, but not only that, if Seo Jun infuses mana into the suit, it becomes stronger than most armors. This is how Seo Jun takes the opportunity and severely wounds the mimic. When he is about to give him the final blow, he keeps resisting by showing him a figure similar to Xiaola. But this does not work. Seo Jun knows that this is not his daughter. Even if he heard those words of resentment towards him, he would hear them directly from his daughter, not from monsters like that. Seo Jun does not want to continue hurting Xiaola. As he laments remembering the things he put his daughter through before his regression, this strange woman appears before him. And that's how the first part of this man ends. Well guys, if you like this video and you want a second part, comment below with the word pictures. Also subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell and like the video. But most important, leave a comment. Until the next video.